Environment Canterbury, Temporary Commissioners and Improved Water Management Amendment Bill, committee stage continued.
I declare the House in committee for further consideration of the Environment Canterbury, Temporary Commissioners and Improved Water Management Amendment Bill. Mr. Chairman.
The House in committee for further consideration of the Environment Canterbury Temporary Commissioners and Improved Water Management Amendment Bill. Members, when the committee's consideration of the bill was interrupted, it was a Part 1 debate. David Clendon had the call. He has a couple of minutes remaining if he wishes to take that call. So the question is that Part 1 stand part. Sir William Seo, you are seeking the call.
Yes, absolutely, Mr.
You have the call.
Thank you. What a wonderful chair. Mr. Chairman, pleased to take a call on the Environment Canterbury Temporary Amendment Bill. I thought it might be important, Mr. Chair, for people to recognise that the bill before the House amends the original Act, which this government only passed in 2010. And people may remember that the original Act of 2010, essentially this government empowered themselves to remove the elected members of the Environment Canterbury who were elected by the community at the time. And this government, under that bill, replaced those elected members by having 7 government-appointed commissioners. It also ought to be recognised that the reason that was argued by this government in 2010, which gave rise to the original bill, was there were systemic and performance issues and concerns by Ngāi Tahu. And a report that was presented to this government in February 2010 by the Right Honourable Wyatt Creech. And people might recall that the Right Honourable Wyatt Creech is a former member of the national government under the government of Jenny Shipley. That's right. And so, that was the background, sir, to this bill that we now have, the original Act. And now the bill that before the House is to amend to amend the original Act and there's a couple of issues that I suspect, sir, that people listening to the debate, particularly people in the area of Canterbury, will have some very, very serious concerns, because this bill now delays the election for Environment Canterbury until 2016, with a review occurring next year, despite the fact that the then Minister responsible for driving this bill, the Honourable Nick Smith, had promised the election would be held this year. And I want to quote the Honourable Dr. Smith, his words: "Whatever the circumstances, the next regional council elections in Canterbury will take place no later than the election scheduled for late 2013. That was what is on the original bill. That 2013, I'll read it again for those members not listening to the quote. Whatever the circumstance, this is the Honourable Dr. Nick Smith. I want to quote him because these are important, because in this House we live and die by the words that we use, Mr. Speaker. And so, as the Honourable Dr. Smith said, whatever the circumstances, the next regional council elections in Canterbury will take place no later than the election scheduled for late 2013. Well, that's right. But the the reference, sir, is this year. This is when we are supposed to, according to the original Act, call elections for the people of Canterbury. But the bill that is before the House, sir, again introduced by is that the next elections of regional councillors to ECAN's governing body is to occur at the 2016 local authority elections. So I put to you, Absolutely. Look, irrespective of concerns raised, irrespective of issues that the mayors of the region have, is this the way that we do things in New Zealand? Is this the kind of New Zealand that we have, that if we're not happy with how officials elected by the local community democratically, if we're not happy with their performance, we simply remove them? Is this how we are going to do things, sir, under this government? By dictating to the people who they were elected. They were elected by the community to do a job. Surely, rightly or wrongly, that we allow them to perform that job. So, but that's not so bad. The fact that this minister of this government promised that this year they would be able to re-elect their representative, and now we're saying, no, that's not going to happen. The people of Canterbury, look, you're just going to have to wait till 2016. Tough luck, absolutely. And so we look at the bill. Mr. Chairman.
Take another call to CO.
Thank you very much. But the new minister, under this bill, I have to say, with the greatest respect to the new minister, Chris Tremaine, the Honourable Chris Tremaine, I think you've been handed an absolute shocker of a bill, because this bill, in the whole essence of it, denies democratic rights which your government promised the people of Canterbury they would receive this year in this election. So while the rest of New Zealand will be happily going about campaigning to elect good men and women to represent them in various local governments throughout the city, your government has decided, no. People of Canterbury, you are not good enough to elect your own officials. That's the kind of message this bill says. So I want to say, this is another broken promise, sir, by the John Key government. Many will recall that in March 2010, Nick Smith was very clear when he said, whatever the circumstances, unquote, the next ECAN election would be in 2013. And that's just not going to happen, because this bill means not only... The bill says 2016 is when the elections, but there's to be a review next year. Now people are asking, well, what is that review about? If you're saying 2016, make it happen 2016. But I don't believe, sir, that the people of Canterbury will have any confidence whatsoever that this government will keep that word. If they failed in keeping 2013, and now they're saying, yep, 2016, but we'll run a review first in 2014. That's right. And so I think I want to quote some submissions that were provided by some very significant individuals to this bill, sir, and I think it is important that the new minister take note. The Beckenham Neighbourhood Association opposes this bill. The Community Law Centre of Canterbury opposes this bill, and they are recommending that the provisions relating to the cancellation of 2013 election be removed. The Environment and Conservation Organisation of New Zealand, they oppose this bill. They believe, sir, not only will this bill erode local communities' right to elect their own, but also it will erode their right, sir, to be able to take up issues with the environment courts, because it doesn't... The bill is saying that they can only take the redress on matters of point of law. Well, sir, I think if the new minister would talk to the Community Law Centre in Canterbury, I think he'd be well worth his time. The Human Rights Commission, here's the officials' advice, as I've read, say that the bill does not contravene the Bill of Rights. But here's a submission from the Human Rights Commission. Concern about the Act, the way in which it was originally enacted and the intention to extend it, it contravenes the New Zealand Bill of Rights Act 1990. Sir, I don't know how the new minister views the officials' advice, the actions of the former colleagues, and how the people of Canterbury will receive this bill. But I want to say, sir, that the essence of what the community is saying is they oppose the thrust and the advance by this government to continue postponing their democratic right to elect their local government representatives. Now, I believe the new minister, who hails from the Hastings area, has good relationship with their local government, and he would have heard from them that there is no way that they would accept him saying to their, for issues of performance, that they are going to appoint the commissioners and replace elected officials. So I would ask, sir, on what is the basis that the ministers decided to ramshot this bill and not give the people, ram it? Well, because the minister is not giving the people of Canterbury their right to choose. The minister is not giving the people of Canterbury their freedom to be able to elect their own representatives. The minister is not giving them a choice whatsoever.
Jonathan Young.
I move that the question be now put.
Darian Fenton.
Thank